Welcome to PSSL 6240 and welcome to the course. I'm Rowan Sharma, your instructor for this upcoming quarter, and I just wanted to take this time to welcome you again to the course and welcome you to the and give you some introductory points for the course. So again, welcome to the course, and for most of you, welcome to the Safety and Security Leadership Program, as well as to George Washington University. I hope this experience is both academically fulfilling as well as professionally fulfilling as well, so you achieve goals on both fronts. So I just want to quickly introduce the course, and I want to start out with telling you what this course is not. A lot of you are coming from the military or from the government, and you're used to terrorism courses being about anti-terrorism force protection. This is not a course on anti-terrorism force protection. This is not a course on signals intelligence, not a course on link analysis. This is not a course on those skills you might be familiar with from being in the military or in the intelligence community related to terrorism. This is not any of those. This is a course on terrorism as a social phenomenon. We cover politics, policy, history, even a little bit of philosophy and psychology is thrown in there. So we're looking at the terrorism problem set from an intellectual framework. So I just want to make that clear right at the onset. And most of the courses that you take in this program are going to be set from that more intellectual, have more intellectual rigor than you would see in a normal military course or federal government course or in an intelligence community course. So I just want to make that clear from the onset. So how this course is going to work, we're going to start, it's an 8-section course, we're going to start talking about history. Well, we're going to start actually talking about terrorism as an existential threat. We'll look at, do we spend too much money? Do we spend too much time and effort worried about terrorism? And that's where kind of that philosophy comes into play. So that'll be Unit 1. And then starting with Unit 2, we'll start talking about history. We'll talk about terrorism before Al-Qaeda and 9/11, which I hope you're very familiar with. Terrorism going back to the early part of the 20th century, up to the post-colonial phase after the Second World War to right up to 9/11 and then right after 9/11. So we'll cover the full gamut as far as history. We'll also cover that ubiquitous what is terrorism, what is not terrorism, and that's going to be your first paper topic. We're going to try and answer the question, why do we consider certain people terrorists? Why do we consider other people not terrorists? Why do we consider certain people freedom fighters? Why do other people criminals or insurgents? So we'll try and get a good definition, or at least an understanding of what terrorism is and what isn't. And we'll be probably disagreeing with you on a lot of that. So we'll go to that, and then we'll wrap up the kind of the history philosophical point with talking about terrorist adaptation. How different organizations, and we'll have 4 case studies, how they adapt, how they change, how they react, how they evolve, and why certain terrorist organizations are successful and why others are not. And we'll have 4 case studies that go that in detail. So that kind of is the first section of the course, is the history and the terrorism perspective. The second section of the course is counterterrorism, and we'll start that out with looking at terrorism finance and how terrorist finance works and how counter-terrorist organizations interdict terrorist financial capabilities. We'll then cover terrorism in WMD, and that will be your second paper, which will be a analysis of how terrorists conduct WMD, or how terrorists could obtain and conduct a WMD strike, which I consider is the largest terrorist threat out there. So that's why we dedicate a section to that. And then we'll move to counterterrorism strategy. We'll look at U.S. counterterrorism strategy. We'll look at comparative counterterrorism strategy with Israel and England and India. And we'll hopefully get lessons learned from each one of those to see what works, what doesn't, and what policies would be the most effective to implement. From there, we go to intelligence-related, or intel and counterterrorism. And from there, I look at 9/11. How did 9/11 happen? What were the intelligence failures, or if there were intelligence failures related to 9/11, and what were the interagency issues surrounding that. And then we look at post 9/11. We look at Okay, despite the billions of dollars spent, trillions depending on how you count it, and the effort put in counterterrorism, why do we still have things like the Times Square bomber and the Fort Hood shooter and the Boston Marathon attack and the underwear bomber? Can we solve these problems from an interagency perspective? So that will wrap up kind of the second section looking at counterterrorism. And then what I'm going to wrap up the course with is contemporary issues. And we might change this around a bit based on current events, but we look at leadership targeting, high value targeting, and that has been and currently is a big issue related to counterterrorism, drone strikes specifically. We'll look at NSA spying, brought up again in the past year or so. And then we'll wrap it up with a look at American jihadism, basically the domestic terrorism threat related to jihadist elements moving overseas to include now in the Syria-Iraq zone and possibly posing a threat to the homeland. So that will cover the course, and then the last week I'm going to give you time to work on your final papers and to study for the final exam. So that covers kind of the issues. You can go over this in the syllabus in more detail, but those are the main topics for the course. So just work products. This might be a little bit confusing on the syllabus, so I want to make it clear here. Everyone will do 2 papers, and we'll do 1 group presentation. So how this works is on the syllabus, I'm going to break you into 4 groups, 3 to 4 people per group. And what will happen is you will not do the paper that week. You will do the presentations. Just to give you an example, during week 3, at the end of week 3, everyone will do a paper on, or you're assigned, what is terrorism, what is not terrorism. If you are in that group, you will not do the paper. You will do the briefing. You will put together a briefing together on that subject. So I want to make that clear. You will not do the paper for that week. You will do a presentation. If you're in group 2, you will do, group 2 is the WMD, or the second paper is the WMD terrorism course. If you're in group 2, you will not do a paper on that topic. You will do a presentation on that topic. And the same in group 3 and group 4, there's paper 3 is on intelligence and counterterrorism. You will do a presentation on that and not do the paper. So I've lightened the load a bit based on some previous comments that we were doing too many papers. So you will do 2 papers and 1 group presentation. If there's any questions on that, let me know. But I think I've tried to make that clear, and I will, in the first week or first day of class, break you down into groups so you know which groups and which presentation weeks you will be going. So that's the product. 2 papers, 1 presentation, and then participation on the discussion board. That will be done every week. For the most part, there's 2 discussion boards every week. You will write out 400 to 500 word post, and then about 150, 200 words posting on each of your classmates' assignments. So what I want from this, the participation, you should write it pretty detailed. I mean, it's not that much, 400 words, but you should incorporate the readings and the lectures and current events and your own analysis all in this very tightly knit product, as well as on the group presentation, or on the when you post on your fellow classmates' discussion boards. So to make that kind of clear as day. So again, we have a teaching assistant. Greg Morgan's a teaching assistant, and he'll be grading that and making sure that your discussion boards are pretty detailed. So in addition to papers and assignments, the group presentations I mentioned, you will be delivering those at 3 Adobe Connect sessions. We'll be having 3 Adobe Connect sessions, and what that is kind of a group video teleconference software where we'll all log in and we'll all listen to each other's group presentations. So we'll have 3 of them. They will all be on Tuesdays on week 3, week 5, and week 7. So I'm going to say that again: Tuesday, week 3, Tuesday, week 5, Tuesday, week 7, at 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. If you can't make those, let me know now, or if there's bandwidth issues or something that prevents you from actually attending those, let me know. But again, we'll be having those. If you can't make it, don't worry, because of bandwidth issues, we can work around it. But if you can make it, please do. And if you're presenting that week, you're pretty much required to make it. So again, Tuesday, week 3, Tuesday, week 5, Tuesday, week 7. And the last thing is you will have a final in this exam. The final is not going to be that hard, but you will need to study for it. And it will be an open book, open note on Adobe Connect, or not on the Learn program, and it will be done on the Learn platform. It will be take home. You have 3 hours to do it in, and yeah, it will be open book. But you still need to study for it. So. If there's any questions or issues, please let me know on that. But yeah, those are your work products. Again, 2 papers, 1 group presentation, weekly discussion board, and then a final. So what I want to do is just wrap up this last YouTube with my personal bio. I currently work I'm Rowan Sharma. Please don't call me Mr. Sharma. Don't call me Dr. Sharma. Don't call me anything else. Just call me Rowan. I'm pretty informal. And I work at a place called the Defense Threat Reduction Agency, which is the Department of Defense's counter WMD section. It's probably the best way to put it. So when we talk to that week 4, when we talk WMD issues, that will be up my wheel well, so to speak. And I'm a red team analyst with the Defense Threat Reduction Agency, which means I try and emulate the enemy, how an adversary would act. Prior to that, I worked at Homeland Security, the Transportation Security Administration Agency, so I'm familiar with aviation and commercial aviation security. And I also worked as a contract analyst with the Joint IED Defeat Organization here in DC. And prior to that, I was an Army officer for 7 years. I worked in intelligence. My last job, I was an S2 at Fort Campbell. I've deployed to Iraq and Afghanistan, so if you're deployed now or if you're preparing to deploy, I can definitely empathize with you in that respect. And before I was in the military, I was in college, graduated from Johns Hopkins, and have a graduate degree in Georgetown in security studies. So just some concluding remarks. I look forward to this presentation, these 2 months. I enjoy teaching. I learn as much from the students as you probably learn in the class from me. So I look forward to that. And if there's any issues, whether it's bandwidth issues, whether it's personal issues or information technology issues, or even if there's career issues or advice that you're interested in, don't hesitate to contact me. My best is my email, my Gmail account, which you all have, and I'm pretty responsive on that if you send me an email through there. So if there's any questions or issues, please let me know. And again, I look forward to this week.